You know what keeps me up at night? It's not guilt. It's not fear. It's the sound of a shovel hitting dirt. That metal scrape against soil. I heard it 3 weeks ago through the bedroom window, and I knew right then that everything was about to end. My wife was digging in the garden, our garden, the one I've tended for 17 years, the one spot in our entire property I told her never to touch. And she was digging right where I told her not to. I didn't run outside, I just stood there, frozen, because I knew what she was going to find. And I knew that when she found it, the man she thought she married would disappear forever. See, I buried something there. Something that's been rotting under those roses since before we even had kids. And it wasn't what you think. I didn't kill anyone. I didn't steal anything. What I buried was worse. I buried the person I really was. The person she never knew existed. And the crazy thing? I buried it to protect her. To protect us. But now I realize you can't build a life on top of a grave and expect nothing to grow crooked. My name is Daniel. I'm 42 years old. I've been married to Sarah for 17 years. We have 2 daughters. I coach Little League. I go to church on Sundays. Everyone in our neighborhood knows me as the guy who always waves, who helps carry groceries, who keeps his lawn perfect. But none of them know what's under that lawn. Let me take you back to the summer of 2008. I was 25. Sarah and I had been dating for 6 months. She was everything I wasn't: confident, open, trusting. She came from this big, warm family that actually liked each other. Sunday dinners, inside jokes, the kind of love you see in movies. I came from nothing. Foster care, group homes. I aged out of the system at 18 with $200 and a garbage bag full of clothes. No family, no connections. No idea who I really was. But I survived. I worked. I lied on applications. I became whoever I needed to be to get by. And then I met Sarah. And for the first time in my life, I wanted to be someone real. Someone good, someone who deserved the way she looked at me. We got serious fast. Too fast, probably. But when you've never had anything, and suddenly someone wants to give you everything, you hold on. You hold on so tight your knuckles turn white. 3 months in, she brought me home to meet her parents. Her dad shook my hand, asked me about my family, where I grew up, what my parents did. And I lied. I told him my parents died in a car accident when I was 16, that I lived with my grandmother until she passed, that I worked my way through community college on my own. Clean. Simple. Tragic enough to explain why I was alone, but not so broken that they'd worry. They believed me. Why wouldn't they? I'd practiced that story 100 times in front of bathroom mirrors, in job interviews, on first dates that went nowhere. But Sarah, she didn't just believe me, she loved me for it. She told me I was the strongest person she'd ever met, that surviving all that and still being kind was proof of who I really was inside. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't just lying to get by anymore. I was lying to be loved. A year later, we got engaged. Her family threw this huge party. Her dad gave this speech about how proud he was to welcome me into the family, how I was the son he never had, how he knew I'd take care of his little girl. I smiled, I hugged him, and inside, I felt like I was dying. Because by then, the lie had grown. I'd added details, told stories about my childhood home, made up memories about my grandmother's cooking. I even described the accident, the rain, the highway, the funerals I never attended because they never happened. Sarah would hold my hand when I talked about it. She'd tear up. She'd tell me how sorry she was that I'd been through so much. and every time I felt the weight of it, this enormous, suffocating weight pressing down on my chest. But I told myself it was worth it, that the lie was protecting her, that if she knew the truth, that I was nobody, that I came from nothing, that I had no proof I was even worth loving, she'd leave. Or worse, she'd stay out of pity. So I kept going. We got married, bought a house, had our first daughter, Emma, 2 years later, then Lily, 3 years after that. And the whole time I was terrified someone from my past would show up, terrified I'd slip up and say the wrong thing, terrified my daughters would grow up and somehow sense that their father was a fraud. I couldn't sleep. I'd lay awake next to Sarah, watching her breathe, thinking about all the ways the truth could come out. A background check, a random encounter, a Facebook message from someone who knew me before. So I made a decision. I was going to erase him, the real me, the kid with no name, no family, no history. I was going to bury him so deep that even I could forget he existed. I gathered everything. Every document from the foster system, every ID card with my real information, every piece of paper trail that connected me to the person I used to be. I had a social security number no one knew about, a birth certificate with a name that wasn't Daniel. I put it all in a metal lockbox, and one night while Sarah was at her sister's with the girls, I went into the backyard. I dug a hole beneath where I was planning to plant roses, 4 feet deep, and I buried it. I buried myself. And I told myself that was it, that the past was gone, that I could finally breathe, that I could be the husband and father they deserved without constantly looking over my shoulder. For a while it worked. I planted those roses. They bloomed every spring. I'd water them, prune them, kneel in the dirt right above that box and feel safe. Like I'd killed the thing that could hurt us. Years passed. 10, 15. The girls grew up. Emma started high school. Lily got into soccer. Sarah and I fell into this comfortable rhythm, the kind of marriage where you finish each other's sentences, where you don't need to talk to understand. I thought I'd won. I thought I'd buried the past so deep it could never come back. But here's the thing about secrets. They're not dead things. They're seeds. And if you give them enough time, enough darkness, enough pressure, they grow into something you can't control. 3 months ago, Sarah's dad died. Heart attack. Sudden. We all took it hard, but Sarah, she fell apart. Her dad was her hero, the man who taught her how to ride a bike, who walked her down the aisle, who called her every Sunday just to check in. At the funeral, she gave this speech about legacy, about how her dad taught her that family is everything, that honesty is the foundation of love, that the greatest gift a parent can give their child is the truth of who they are. And I sat there, in the front row, holding her hand, feeling like I was going to vomit. After the funeral, she got obsessed with family history. She started going through old photos, documents, letters. She wanted to make this scrapbook for the girls, a family tree, something to show them where they came from. And then she asked me for my side. Photos of my parents, my grandmother, the house I grew up in, anything I had. I froze. I told her I didn't have anything, that it was all lost in a move years ago, that it was too painful to go digging through. She looked at me with these soft, understanding eyes, and she said, "Daniel, you don't have to protect me from your grief. I want to know them. I want the girls to know them." And I wanted to tell her. God, I wanted to tell her so badly. But how do you confess something like that after 17 years? How do you look at the mother of your children and say, everything you know about me is a lie? So I didn't. I changed the subject. I distracted her, and I thought it would blow over. But it didn't. She kept asking, gently at first, then more insistently. She even suggested we visit the town I said I grew up in. Just to see it, she said, just so I can picture where you came from. I made excuses. Work, the girls' schedules, money, anything to avoid it. And that's when she started getting suspicious. I could see it in her eyes, the way she looked at me when I thought she wasn't watching, the way she'd pause before responding to my stories, the questions that felt like tests. What was your mom's maiden name again? Which hospital were you born in? What year did your grandmother pass? I answered. I always had answers. But I could feel the walls closing in. And then 2 months ago, I came home from work and found her in the study. She had my old filing cabinet open, papers spread across the desk. She looked up at me, and her face. I'll never forget her face. Daniel, she said quietly, why don't any of these documents match the stories you've told me? My heart stopped. She'd found a pay stub from a job I worked before we met. It had my real name on it, not Daniel, the name I was born with. I tried to explain. I stammered something about identity theft, about changing my name for a fresh start, about it being complicated. But she wasn't stupid. She knew. Not everything, but enough to know I'd been lying. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just looked at me with this expression I'd never seen before. Like she was looking at a stranger. "Who are you?" she whispered. And I couldn't answer, because I didn't know anymore. She asked me to leave, to stay at a hotel while she figured things out. I packed a bag, kissed my doubters goodbye without explaining why Daddy was leaving, and I drove to a motel on the edge of town. For 3 days, I didn't hear from her. I called, I texted, nothing. And then, on the 4th day, I got a single text. "Come home. We need to talk." I drove back with my hands shaking. I walked in through the front door. The house was quiet. The girls were at Sarah's sister's. Sarah was sitting at the kitchen table, and in front of her, covered in dirt, was the metal lockbox. She'd dug it up. "I found this under the roses," she said. Her voice was flat, empty. "The roses you never let me touch. The roses you said were special." I couldn't move, couldn't speak. She opened it. She read everything. Your real name, your real history, the truth about where you came from. She looked up at me then. Her eyes were red, but she wasn't crying. "You lied to me," she said. "For 17 years, you lied to me. You lied to my family. You lied to our children." "Sarah, I can explain." "Explain what?" Her voice cracked. "Explain why you invented dead parents? Why you made me fall in love with a ghost? Why you let me comfort you over a tragedy that never happened?" "I did it to protect us," I said, and I hated how pathetic it sounded. "I didn't want you to know I was nobody. I didn't want you to leave." "So instead, you made me live with a stranger?" She stood up, her hands shaking. "Daniel, or whoever you are, do you have any idea what you've taken from me? I can't trust a single memory. Every story, every moment, every time I thought we were close, it was based on a lie." "Not everything was a lie," I said desperately. "My love for you, my love for the girls, that was real. That's always been real." "But you weren't real." She was crying now, finally. "The man I married doesn't exist. He never did." And that's when I understood. She wasn't just angry. She was grieving. grieving the husband she thought she had, grieving the life she thought we'd built. "I'm still me," I said quietly. "I'm still the man who held your hand in the hospital when Emma was born, who stayed up all night with Lily when she had colic, who loves you more than anything in this world. But I don't know who that man is, and I don't know if I ever did." We stood there in silence. The lockbox sat between us like a corpse. "I need you to tell me everything," she finally said. "Every truth, every lie, every detail you buried. And then I'll decide if we can survive this." So I told her everything, from the foster homes to the group homes to the streets. I told her about the loneliness, the fear, the desperate need to be someone worth loving. I told her about the first lie, and how it grew, and how I convinced myself it was the only way to keep her. I told her about the lockbox, about burying my past because I thought I could kill it. She listened. She didn't interrupt. She didn't comfort me. And when I finished, she said something I'll never forget. "You didn't bury your past to protect me," she said. "You buried it to protect yourself. Because if I knew the truth, you'd have to face the fact that you never thought you were enough." And she was right. God, she was right. I didn't bury that box because I was scared she'd leave. I buried it because I was scared she'd stay, and I'd have to live with the shame of knowing she loved a lie. That was 3 weeks ago. We're in counseling now. Sarah insists on it. Says if there's any chance of saving this marriage, we both need to face what I did, what we've become. The girls don't know yet, not everything, but they know something's wrong. Emma asked me the other day why Mom looks at me differently now. I didn't know what to say. The truth is, I don't know if we'll make it. Sarah says she wants to try, but I can see the doubt in her eyes. Every time I speak, she's listening for the lie underneath. Every time I touch her, she flinches, just a little. And I don't blame her. I thought burying my past would set me free, but all it did was trap me in a grave of my own making. Some nights I go outside and look at those roses. They're still blooming, still beautiful, but I know what's underneath now, and I can't unsee it. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it, but I am asking for a chance to be honest, a chance to show Sarah and my daughters who I really am, not the man I pretended to be, but the man I'm trying to become. Because here's what I've learned. Love can't survive on a lie, but maybe, just maybe, it can survive the truth, even if that truth has been buried for 17 years. So let me ask you something. If someone you loved had lied to you like this, built an entire life on a foundation of deception, could you forgive them? Would you even want to try? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really want to know, because I'm living this right now, and I don't know if what I'm hoping for is even possible. And if this story hit you, if it made you think about secrets you've kept or truths you've buried, don't just scroll past. Hit that like button. Subscribe. Because every story here isn't just a story. It's a piece of someone's truth. Maybe even yours. And maybe, if we're brave enough to share them, we can figure out how to live with them. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.